Hello. This is a total true story. It had police um, looking at it. It had doctors, numerous doctors. It's been in media. It's been on TV. It even had a two-part documentary about it in Italy, if I remember. I've never watched it, but I'm not surprised. This is such a good story. It was by a chap called Pierre Sanfretta. I'm going to have to keep looking because I can't say the names. And it was in a place called Torriglia in Italy near Genoa. I've never been, but it sounds beautiful. That's all Italy is. Anyway, it was a normal night, and it was just a house he's not been to before, as far as I know. I don't, and that's what I'm aware of anyway. But it's irrelevant, really. But it's an hours from his headquarters, and it was a wintry night in 1978, very cold night, and he's armed with a Smith and Wesson, and out he goes. As he gets closer to the house he's protecting, it's owned by a Mr. Wiggy, I think that's right. He was a doctor, wasn't home at the time. Anyway, he gets close to the house. Nobody's supposed to be at home, and he notices there's lights all around the place. He gets out of his vehicle and dives behind a wall. And as he's behind the wall, waiting for the intruders to pop out of the house, so he can surprise them with his gun, it gets a knock on his shoulder, a little tap on his shoulder. Anyway, he's holding his gun and he's thinking, who's this? And before he could turn his gun round, he sees this huge creature and he describes it being 10 foot tall. It says horrific colour. It's a really horrific looking, horrible creature. It says it's the most horrible thing he's ever seen in his life, basically. And anyway, it scares him to death, which it would anybody. He drops his torch to the ground, and just as he's about to pick it up, the creature sways at him. And he misses it, picks his torch up, and tries to run to his truck. And as he's running to his truck to get away, he's on the radio to headquarters saying, "Help me, help me! They're horrible. They describe them being very tall and small, and it says they're just awful. They're so horrible and terrifying." And they said, "How many are they?" He said, "They're not human." They kept saying, "They're not human. They're not human." Anyway, just then he had a flash of light hit him, and then there were no more reports to the headquarters. So they did know other. The headquarters company he worked for sent two more security guards up, armed as well. And the time they got there, it took about an hour because this place is such a long way out. And there is Pierre Sanfretta holding a gun, pointing it at him. And then they describe him being quite a timid chap and always nice and known him for 6, 7 years. And it's not the sort of behaviour he would do. He's there pointing a gun at him. So the two security guards went to check if he was all right. They split up in two, went to the side of him and disarmed him. Anyway, they called the police because they were quite worried about him. And the police came, and this Mr. Pierre Sanfretta told the story. Obviously, they didn't believe him and scoffed him. And even though there were markings on the ground and everything, anyway, later in the interview, he told them he saw a triangle craft, huge. He says, "Don't know how big it was, but it covered the whole house." And the creature they described, there was two of them, a small one and the very large one. The large one around 10 foot tall. And he says it's the most horrific thing he's ever seen in his life. And that's the one what kept coming up to him, what was close to him. The small one, he didn't really describe it exactly too well, but the large one, he described it being red veins on his forehead and horrific, and a yellowish skin. And he says it describes if he couldn't understand if he were wearing clothes or he just absolutely awful looking, baggy or something not fitting right to his body. Anyway, obviously they still didn't believe any of this story, and even though there was 9 foot diameter indention and markings on the ground where this craft had left, and the footprints, there were large, massive footprints all round him, all round the truck, going around 20 inches by 8 inches, and they took photographs of it and markings, and his clothes when they found him. It said they were red hot, absolutely red hot. They were steaming, even though it was a freezing night. His vehicle was steaming as if he had the vehicle on, the engine running out of the motor, and it was been off for an hour, at least an hour, and it was literally boiling. They couldn't stand it, but the police and everybody else obviously didn't believe him first off. Anyway, and nothing more was said to it, and but he stuck to his story. Then he ended up seeing a doctor. I have to read his name again because I awful with names. Moro Matteo, I think, in Gino. He was a clinical psychiatrist as well, really supposed to be quite one of the best ones, and they hypnotised him. If I've said his name wrong, I apologise, I probably will have. Point is, they hypnotised him, and even though this doctor was qualified, he didn't believe his story because nobody did, but he believed him. He says the way he acted, the way he behaved, and the way he answered all the questions, totally, he believed every word he said. It's just the story was so hard to believe. And anyway, under hypnotised, he told him he was taken up, and that's where he described him more fully. He said they were talking to him and explained that what they want to do, that it's an experiment, and likes that. It wasn't a pleasant experience by any stretch of imagination. Anyway, but nobody still didn't believe him. He did all this and still didn't. But he did that to hopefully so they stopped the mockers. Anyway, that was I think that was 17 days after the event. Maybe wrong, but anyway. Well, after that, he was again in his truck, and a similar thing happened again. He got called. He called the headquarters and says, "So, it's here, it's here, it's here again, it's here." And he again, we went looking for him. They couldn't find him. They couldn't find him anywhere. So, exactly same thing. He told them about the story. The police came. They took photos of the footmarks again, 20 inches by 8 inches. He told them about these creatures. He told them about how he was basically losing his time, and they were beaming him up into his craft, which he couldn't remember until he went under hypnotised. And it told everything about it, all the description. They said they were from a galaxy called Titonia or something, on a planet called Titonia from the third galaxy. It's a lot of details they told him, and basically they're going to keep coming back and to look, and they're going to come back and many times to lots of people. Anyway, and he says that nobody wants you. You're not welcome, and he said you're ugly and all this. Anyway, they didn't take notice, and eventually they put him back on down on the ground, and then they found him again in the field. Exactly the same. His vehicle was steaming, his clothes were steaming. Again, nobody believed him, so he went. This time, as far as I remember, it was a professor he saw. Now, this professor, I'm going to have to look at his name because I know I can remember his name. It was a professor. Gosh, I wish I could remember. Marco Marchesa. I can't remember his name. It's irrelevant anyway. He remembers names. Anyway, he was again. This one though didn't just give him an hypnotise. Didn't just hypnotise him. He gave him a truth drug, and it's I wrote it down somewhere. It's called, but it's irrelevant. But it's actually a truth drug which you can't lie when you've took it. You can't actually you can falsify the truth, but you cannot lie. And this professor even said statement. Everything he said was totally true. Every word he said, because under the drug, that's it. So that's one professor and one acknowledged doctor saying, yeah, he's kosher, he's right. Anyway, the security firm obviously concerned now about him, so they put him somewhere else, totally different place. And again, it happened again. It happened a few same again, but now this time the police begin to obviously believe him now because it's happening that regular. They're finding the same thing. His clothes are, his vehicle is steaming. Again, his security company thought, well, let's move him. Let's move him out of the way. Totally out of the way. So I think they moved him to more around Genoa. And you think about 6 months went by this time. I think it's around 6 months. That cut him out. I think it's got some months went by, and this time he was on a motorcycle on this abduction. And again, he gets on the radio, says, they're here again, they're here, they're horrible, they're here. Exactly the same times as the other times, exactly what he described. A beam light came and hit him. They described being awful, and one creature small, one creature tall, yellowish skin, exactly the same creatures. And but this time he described them and much more fully. He went round the craft. He started to remember what were happening. He said, "Look," he said, "they're going to keep coming." He said, "Nobody wants you to come. Nobody wants you to be abducted." He says, "You're horrible. Nobody wants it." And they said, "You've got to come with us. You really got to come with us." He said, "No, I've got 2 children. I've got to stay here. I've got to stay here." And he said that over and over to them. I said, "No, I don't want to go. I've got to stop here." And this particular one, they shown him round the craft this time, and they showed him some tubes, all with green liquid inside, and this was quite interesting. And one of the tubes it's described as like a large frog creature. That's its description. And then these guys, aliens, who said they came from planet Titonia, so this frog creature, is their enemy, and it's in here in the experiment. And another creature was looked like a large bird, but more of a standing up on wings. And then he looked down across, and then there was another tube with green fluid in, and that had looked like, he described like a Neanderthal, a human being, prehistoric times, and that was in that one. How many more tubes he couldn't remember, but he thinks there were a lot more tubes with different things in. Anyway, they kept saying, "You've got to stop with us," when he was in this ship, and he said, "No, I don't want to. I want to go back. I've got my children. They miss me." And anyway, when they found him, the police made a statement. Where they looked, it wasn't there. Then when they turned round, it was actually there. And the words they heard him kept saying, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I've got to go home. I've got to go home. My children. I've got to go home." And they are the words the police actually heard him say. And yeah, it's shocking, I know, but it didn't end there. Unfortunately, it got a bit worse. Sorry about this, but on the last one of the last occasions was happened again but this time 4 more security guards saw a blue-green light. I can't remember, blue, red. It's a bright light anyway. Maybe it's relevant to the colours, obviously. But anyway, 4 saw it. 2 decided to meet up on the hillside to talk about it. And as they were talking about it, and I won't name names because it ends a bit sad. There was a beam of light, and they saw it clearly. And then the Mr. Sanfretta, he disappeared exactly the same. That they go looking for him, found him again. It tells the same story, you know. Anyway, unfortunately the four security guards all told the same story, but unfortunately one of the security guards gave him a mental breakdown. Quite recorded really well. Went to hospital and ended up taking his own life about 3 months later, and he left a note saying, "I saw it." That's all he wrote. So that's incredibly sad. But Mr. Pierre Sanfretta, he ended up having 11 abductions altogether. And the last one, he actually said to him, "Nobody wants you. Nobody." What he described, "Nobody wants you here. Don't do it no more. You're ugly. We don't want you." You know. And he always says he thinks they listened to him because it stopped. And now the last thing he actually wrote, I don't know if this gentleman's still alive. I hope so. It'd be great to actually meet him. I don't know what happened to him after this, but the last recordings what somebody had of him was that they're back, and I don't know what they want. And that's the last recording somebody actually wrote of him. And I thought that was incredibly spooky. They're back, and I don't know what they want. It's if you have a look at it, Italy, 1978. It happened in Torriglia in Italy, and the gentleman's Pierre Sanfretta. A very big story. Like I say, it's been on TV. I've never watched it or the books. I've read lots of clips about this. I've read lots of clips over the years because it's one of those stories that I totally believe, 100%. It happened. Yeah, 100%. If anybody's do not believe in aliens after finding this story, they never will. If I'm honest, it's such a good story. Unfortunately, it didn't come out too good, but it's quite often they don't. Though, they really don't. It upsets people's mental health such a lot. It's not pleasant. We want to be abducted. Nobody. So it's not a good thing. But it's happening, and it's true. So I hope you like the story. If you get a chance to subscribe, that'd be fabulous. To be honest, I really would like. And I hope you like the story. It's totally true. It really is. It's backed up by so much records. It cannot be true. Like I say, the truth serum, what they gave him. I wrote this down. It's called sodium pentothal. Sodium pentothal. I thought I'd write that down because it to show it's the proper truth drug, and that's the only one I've ever heard anybody taken, maybe more. What I admitted to, and his doctor reported it and everything. That's why this story is up there. Yeah. What else is around, eh? Anyway, I hope you like the story. God bless. Thank you. Take care.